Hey y'all, welcome to this bonus episode of Pink Shade. I'm so excited because look who I have. It's Veronica.
Hey, Mary Payne. Hey, Bunkies.
I'm so happy to see you, Veronica. Now, Veronica, you know the reason why we're called Bunkies, right?
I think it has to do with Love After Lockup, the
Yes.
the bunk mates. But
Yes.
here's a fun fact. I have never watched Love After Lockup, but between you and some of your fellow podcast friends, I have come to love listening to podcasts about Lalu.
Okay, yes. Well, the funniest thing is, so last week on their Patreon, our mutual friends, Jake and Matt of Reality Gaze, they were talking, and Jake says something like, yeah, and then they were bunkies in prison, and Matt goes, uh-huh, and then Matt goes, wait a minute. Is that why Mary Payne calls the listeners the bunkies? It's been 4 years. It's been 4 years. And Jake's like, yeah, nothing gets past you. Wow. Wow. I mean, I gave Matt so much shit. I was like, we have been friends since 2019. He's like, never occurred to me. I was like, you think
And
it's something I made up? Like I just made it up? No, that's what they call it. It originally came from, what's her name? Brittany and Marcelino, because she was on the phone with her girlfriend. She was like, hey, Bunky. So my old host and I, we created a spinoff podcast called Hey Bunky, because it's like your girlfriend, right? It's like, hey, Bunky. Yeah. So that's where it came from.
I
But
love
you
it.
already knew.
I didn't know this much, but I knew halfway. So
Okay. But you knew more
Matt
than
should be
Matt.
ashamed. I know.
He should be ashamed. We'll shame him later. Well, listen, you guys, Veronica, you started off on 90 Day Fiance way back when as Tim's voice of reason, his sounding board, when he went over to Columbia to meet the girl with too many letters in her names, Jennifer, with too many F's, right?
Yes.
Double N, double F.
Tim and
So
her.
Tim and Jennifer. So it seems like the dog barks. I'm sorry, somebody will put them out. If it seems like to me they hated each other, right? He really didn't care for her, and she really hated him as well. Didn't you think?
I mean, it is very interesting to me, like watching it back, because I had known Tim, obviously I had known about Jennifer long before I had known about 90, you know what I mean? Long before 90
Yeah.
Days of Thought, right? And she had always seemed so sweet, or at least like the stories seemed so sweet. And then, when they met, it was like, and I think maybe that's why we saw him react the way he reacted, because he expected her to be like, nice and sweet, like she had been when they were,
Yeah.
and it did not pan out that way. So she's feisty.
She's feisty, and then she was dating Jesse Meester, which that is the biggest like thirst bucket on the planet. Like what? Don't you feel like they bring him out at every reunion for no reason? We're like, why is he here?
Tim and I literally ask that every single time. We're like, why are you here? What are you doing here? So we'll see. Hopefully we don't see him at this year's reunion. We'll have to stay tuned, but you're right. They love to bring him out. So
I'm like, why? I will tell you though, I loved on the 90 Day, was it Toe, that when they brought out the panel with Tim and Kalani and Andre and Tanya. I loved that because sometimes we as podcasters don't feel that Sean Robinson asked enough follow-up questions. It's just like, well, we're not going to solve it. And then she moves on. I loved that they had Tim and Tanya and Kalani. Andre didn't say much, but that they were on there because they would be like, no, wait a minute. What? They were asking the follow-up questions.
yeah.
When they first came out, I was like, this is dumb. They brought him out like the Avengers, right? I was like, this is dumb. But then I was like, this is a great idea.
Yeah. It's like, we have questions, we need them answered. And and I think for us, like we're viewers too, right? So as we're watching shows, like we hang on to like the craziest little like details. Like, didn't you say this one thing one? And Sean has a life. Some of us maybe don't have so much of a life. So we're still like clinging on to that thing. And we're like, I need an answer on this. And I think the audience is that way too. So I think it kind of works.
But it's interesting, right? Because you and Tim were on together in that he was like the contestant. He was part of the couple on the show. And then you were the friend, the sounding board. And then you guys were on Pillow Talk together, still gold to this day, every time you're on. But are you the only person that has ever not an original cast member that's now been on a spinoff?
No, I'm not even the first. So and I actually know this because people say that to me all the time.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
One of people's favorite things to like throw in my face on social media is like, you were never even on the show. But we have to think first, we had Mama Debbie. She was on Single Life, right? And she was Colt's,
Okay.
Colt's sounding board in
Yes.
his first season or even second season.
Okay.
And then of course we always have Stacy. But like, I don't know that you can say Stacy is a side. You know what I mean? That Stacy is Darcy's sounding board because
I was like, who the hell is Stacy? Oh, Darcy and Stacy.
Darcy and Stacy, because they did their whole. So she didn't do Single Life, but they did, their whole own, spinoff and all of that. So
right. Okay.
I'm not first, and then of course this season I'm also joined by John.
Right, another side character.
So this season it's John and I. We're representing for the normies as
John from Worcester.
Yeah,
his accent. So, okay, all right, that cleared that up. So let's talk about you meeting Jamal. I mean, obviously you met Jamal through the show. You didn't just like bump into him on the street somewhere.
No. Yeah. I saw him on a Pillow Talk on Kim's. I think we had seen him earlier in the season, but when that man came out on that tell-all stage on Kim's first tell-all in his it was like all of this, yes. And I remember telling Tim at the time, I was like, I feel badly. I was like, I think he's like 25. And he was at the time of filming. But by the time it aired, he was like 27. So
okay.
I was like, I can maybe work with this. But yeah, I saw him on the tell-all first. And so I had made a comment on Pillow Talk. And then he watched the Pillow Talk and kind of reached out. And the really funny thing is actually, he had DM'd me a couple times and I didn't see him. I'm not great about DMs, Mary Payne and Bunky. Yeah. I'm not great about DMs. I try to get to a couple every day, but I'm just not great about the DMs. So he at one point DM'd me and then I saw it and I was like, oh, I have missed like a few other DMs. Okay. Which we saw on, I think the first episode or episode 2 of this season. I was actually, I was steaming my face. I was doing my skin mask. I was doing my self-care Sunday. Yeah. And I was like, tap the link, buy this steamer. She's great. And then he responded and he was like, it's the eyes for me. And I was like, I'm trying to steam my face here. I'm not trying to find a man. But that's really how it all started.
And then you guys started doing like a commuter relationship because he's in San Diego.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So have you met Kimberly?
I have met Kimberly.
And she seems like a good time.
Kim is very sweet and she is a very fun time.
Okay. And is Kimberly dating? Are we going to get her on the Single Life sometime? That would be great.
I don't know. As far as I know, Kimberly is single.
Okay.
And so I think she would be excellent for a future edition of the Single Life.
Now, you probably can't say, but unless it's out there in the world. Now, are you and Jamal still an item?
We are going to have to stay tuned and
wait and see.
And wait and see and find out.
Okay. Well, if you were still an item, could the two of you go on Pillow Talk together?
Never say never. They love to like mix things up sometimes.
Yeah.
And I actually have some really cute photos of Jamal and I sitting on the sofa, like long before we started filming Single Life, like when we were early on in the relationship. Yeah. And I wanted to, obviously I couldn't post anything for a while. And I thought about posting it now, but I was like, it's going to get out of hand. Everyone's going to assume that we're pillow talking. And so instead of confusing the masses, I'll just keep them so that I can like look at them and chuckle. Because he just sat his butt right down in Tim's Pillow Talk spot and Misty jumped right on his lap. And I was okay, that's what we're going to, okay.
All right. We don't want to make Tim mad. So, okay. Now on the show, I got to say, and I'm being honest with you, Jamal is coming off like a jerk. He is coming off like a jerk. He comes across like, I'm too young to settle down. I'm never going to move here. This town is boring. And I don't like it. I don't like it.
I get either.
Okay.
I don't know why he's been trash talking Charlotte. That's the funny thing too. So he actually went to school in Virginia. Yeah. So his friends that we just saw in the last episode that were visit from Virginia and Charlotte are very similar. I have lots of friends.
I live in Virginia. So that's why I was like, why are you shit talking Charlotte? Charlotte's great. Yeah.
Yeah. And Virginia's great. And they're both very similar. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I'm a bit confused by that. But I will say too, when Jamal and I met, he was actually still living in New York. So
Okay.
he had recently moved after we met, he had recently moved to San Diego to be with Kim.
Hmm.
So I think there's also something there where he's like, I just got back to the West Coast. Like, I'm trying to figure out which way is up and down. And like, and I am in no way pressuring him. Let's put that out there. I am not pressuring him. I have Chloe at home.
Yeah.
Like me, it's something that, we're gonna see again. We're gonna see where things go. We're gonna take our time. But I don't know why he is so adamantly against Charlotte. Now I will say I've been to San Diego a lot now.
Hmm.
San Diego's phenomenal.
San Diego's really great.
San
It
Diego's
really is. Yeah, it really is.
I would love to live there, but I live here and it's very expensive there and it's less expensive here. So
Totally. Yeah,
gonna
you've
keep
got a pool.
I know it's
Yeah,
right out there.
you've got a pool. I mean, you're not going to get that in San Diego.
But then you have ocean, so
You're not too far from the ocean.
it's true. It's about 3 hours.
Yeah, see, it's better than me. I'm 5. So, okay. So Tim also mentioned on the show, he made a point of letting us know that Jamal has no job. So what's the story on that? That you're dating a guy with no job?
Okay, so I'm glad you asked me so I can clear up this rumor because I know there's been a he said going on.
Yeah.
So when I met Jamal, he had a job in New York. When
Okay.
he relocated, he left that job in New York. And at the time that Tim said that, he had been out of work for quite some time. Because he had again moved to San Diego. He was helping, kind of helping Kim with the house. She ended up selling her house, which was like her childhood house, the one we'd seen on camera where she had lived with her mom and all of that. So I know it was really difficult for her.
Yeah.
So he was helping her with that. So, Tim wasn't wrong. He was unemployed, but like, I'm not trying to take care of anybody.
Right.
I'm all the way grown and have
Yeah.
a job. And it's funny because there was a lot of times that, he would call me and tell me he was going on a job interview or taking a job interview in LA or something like that. So I also learned how close LA and San Diego are.
They're far, right?
They're close. They're like an hour or two.
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking of San Francisco. That's that's on the other end. Yes. Okay.
But they're like very close that it wasn't like, he could like drive in and do an interview. So, but he did not, he was not working at the time that, so this was all.
Does he currently have a job? Does he currently have a job?
He does currently have a job.
Okay.
Is
it 90 Day Fiance?
It is not. Okay. It is not. And I will say, so I think from what I understand, I think he was really upset. And I think he has expressed that he did have a job. And I think that's the job he meant. And, I never paid for a flight. I never paid. I mean, like he took care of his things. He bought the dinners and the things and all of that. But probably with either money that he had saved up from, before he relocated or from 90 Day money.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. So I wanted to clear that up. Did he have a job? And I just wanted to say from just watching it, he is coming off kind of like an arrogant jerk. And I don't like it. And I don't like it. I don't like it at all for you. I'm just saying.
I appreciate that.
I didn't like, Jamal indicated this last episode that we saw last week, he was trying to indicate that Tim was not a good dad. And, he's trying to also say like, well, everything she tells me, and I was like, why are you throwing Veronica under the bus? It looks like you're sitting around going, Tim's a horrible person. He's a horrible dad. It looks like you're telling Jamal all of this and then he's regurgitating it. So I can understand why Tim in his knee boots, that I don't understand why he wears knee boots, why Tim in his knee boots hopped up to make the point, like, don't talk about me being a dad. Like, you could talk about anything else. You could talk about my knee boots, but don't talk about me being a bad dad,
Yeah. And I will say that has been the most upsetting thing for me this whole season. To be honest, it was a rough season to film, right? Yeah. Just because it was such a new relationship and it was so delicate. Excuse me. And then, you're putting it on TV and you have all these very real things happening, but you're also, letting cameras follow you around while all these real things are happening. So you don't even know how you feel. And people are like, camera in your face, tell us how you feel. And you're like, I don't even know what just happened. I don't even know what just happened.
Yeah. Because they have to do like a ITM. They've got to be like, tell us how you felt about just then when he said this about being a bad dad, and you're like, well, it just happened 4 seconds ago, and I'm trying to like, yeah.
Yeah. So I will say, so I really wish that kids have always, and bless the fans for this, because this is a very passionate fan base.
Mm-hmm.
That goes both ways, right? When they love you, they love you. When they hate you, they hate you.
Absolutely.
But the fan base has usually been pretty respectful about kids. And
yeah,
Chloe being on this season, and Chloe looking so much older now, right? We met her on camera. She was 12.
yeah.
She was 16 when we filmed this season,
yeah.
right? And so just her being a plot point, right? Just sucks, right? And it is what was really happening, right?
Yeah.
Like words happened. So, but it's been very frustrating for me just in general that like, why are we bringing this up? Why are we talking about this? Why are we saying this? And I understand how we got there. And I will say too, Jamal and I have had some tense conversations this week. Mm-hmm. As we watch some of this play back, because one of the things too is, so like everything on reality TV, a lot of this, not a lot of this, all of it is edited for time, right?
Of course, yeah.
This is like a 30-minute thing that happened or an hour-long thing that happened, and we're watching 3 minutes of it or 10 minutes of it, right? So I will say that there were certainly things that were said that I don't even remember, but that we didn't see, right? That no one can see. And I was very frustrated at, like I said, at both of them, frankly, for bringing up Chloe, because Tim doesn't need to necessarily see how. I understand what he meant, and I did have his back on that, where, you know, Jamal's friend was like, well, it doesn't really matter if you need to see how Chloe interacts with Jamal. And I was like, no, that. Like, that's understandable. But like, why are we bringing Chloe up, right? So now Jamal reacting, I don't want to speak for Jamal. Jamal has his own unique relationship with his parents that may influence the way he sees other parents. And other people interacting with their parents and their children and things like that. So like there might be a bit of projection there. I will say I was not running around like running my mouth. And to be honest, sorry, I wanted to pause long enough because I don't know if you're going to maybe end up seeing this play out later on.
Okay.
Best I can guess what Jamal was talking about that night is there had been a trip that I had planned to visit Jamal, that Tim was supposed to watch Chloe, that at the last minute, Tim didn't cancel, but changed the details surrounding him watching her.
Okay.
That made me almost have to cancel the trip.
Gotcha.
And it got sorted out and the trip did not get canceled, right? But these are things that, for example, Jamal would have known, like, hey, I'm not going to be able to come because Tim said he can't watch Chloe anymore.
Right, now I'm annoyed because he changed the plan and I thought we had a plan, and you're like, you're bugged because,
Yes, and this sucks. And it's not anything, and it directly affected Jamal, right? So it's something where it's like, hey, babe, can't come see you in 2 days because like this thing came up. And then like a day later, it's like, hey, figured it out. So, you know, see you tomorrow. So I don't know if that was what he was talking about. Like I said, it was actually like, truly, it was, I'm scared to see next week. I'm scared to see next week because, you know, it was such a real moment and it was just such a blur. And so many things happened and so many words were said. And
you never want the two people to hop up, you know, and then you're like, hey, I'm 5'2", I'm in the middle. Like,
I have never seen I've never seen Tim step to anyone, never seen Jamal step to anyone. That really surprised me. And it kind of took me a minute to be like, hold up, like, did Tim just also stand up? Because when Jamal first stood up, I think in my head, I was like, oh, he's about to like say something and he's going to like run off.
Right.
But Jamal definitely has a tendency to like avoid conflict. He'll remove himself from the situation. So I was like, that's what he's doing. And then I see out of my peripheral, Tim's popping up. I will say too, so it actually breaks my heart. One of my best friends that I've known for like 8 or 9 years, his name is Yves, Yves, and he was there.
We were just talking about this when we did our recap today. I was like, she said Tim and Eve, but there was no girl there. And I was like, oh, maybe it was like Eve Saint Laurent. Maybe it was YVES. And that was the guy sitting next to Tim.
Yes.
Okay.
And bless him for being there. So
Mystery solved.
like I said, I hope we see him more because he is one of my best friends. Like I said, he's a great guy. He's known Tim and I when Tim and I were still Veronica and Tim. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Veronica and Tim of friends, right? He's known us that long. So, and I saw him standing up too. So I was like, but when neither of them, like I saw Eve tapping, Tim's hand and Jamal's friends kind of tapping his arm, and neither of them are moving. And I'm like, I have things sitting on top of me, and I'm like, getting bags off me, and I'm like, hold on. Like, I know they're not going to punch me, but I really, like I said, I've never seen either of these men be in a physical altercation. And at this point, I've known Jamal for 2 years almost, a year and a half.
Okay.
And I've known Tim for 15 or 16 years. So it's not like, I've known these men long enough that this was very surprising to me, even knowing that they don't always see eye to eye. I will be completely honest. Like their beef is the silliest. There's a lot of just like, I don't like you because you don't like me. Well, I don't like you because you don't like me.
It's like, yes. Yeah. Well, Jamal's like, you haven't given me a reason why you don't like me. And Tim's like, I don't know. I just don't like you. Yeah. Like, maybe one day you'll prove me wrong, but I don't like you. I was like, how can you prove you wrong when he doesn't even know what he did wrong? You're right. It is sort of like well, you said this, and I feel like it's with Jasmine and Gino. You see this a lot. No matter what insult Jasmine throws out, Gino throws the exact same one back. He'll like she'll say, well, I wish I would have slept with my ex. And he'll go, well, I wish I would have slept with my ex. Like he just says the exact same thing. And you're like, how old are we? Are we toddlers?
Yeah. I was going to say, I think I heard you say that on one of your podcasts like a couple months ago. And now I can't, every single time I watch them, I'm like, she's a genius. You're spot on.
Everything she says, he just says back. Like, or he'll go right back at you. I'm like, that's not a comeback.
At this point, now that you've identified the pattern and I've seen, like, I just chuckle when he says it. And I'm like, I could date someone like Gino because like eventually I would just get to the point where I would just laugh. I'd be like, that's adorable. Thanks, babe.
I know. Just you can't come up with your own one-liner. So I'll just use mine. I guess I'm so funny.
I'll just go to the bathroom and just start yelling at myself in the mirror. I'll save you the trouble.
That'll be the same. Okay, now you mentioned that because Jamal has a job, you have a job. So what is your actual job? I'm always fascinated by 90 Days Alone. What is your actual job? I mean, you don't have to be specific, but
Yeah, I love my job. And it's funny because people like Tim to this day and Chloe to this day are like, Mom, so-and-so wants to know what you do for a living because I don't know how to say or whatever it is.
Okay.
So I am a lead sourcing and procurement relationship manager for a Fortune 500. And that is a fancy title of like, I'm a sourcing manager, I'm a procurement manager. And that means that I negotiate contracts.
Okay.
So, for like a big company. So I work for a big financial services company. I think we were like, well, I'm not going to say the number because I'm going to end up doxing myself, but
okay.
I'm sure Google could tell you, but we are close to being on the Fortune 200 list. And that's very exciting. We've grown leaps and bounds in the last couple of years. But so I negotiate contracts for a big insurance company. Like if we need to buy laptops or, buy a software for recording podcasts. And so I support different business areas. And I have done this since around probably 2012. I started in this industry and I've been at this particular company since 2017.
Okay.
So I've been here for quite some time. And I will say the funniest part, we're back in the office now. I go 1 day a week, usually on Wednesdays, but we hadn't gone for, since 2020.
Yeah.
And I was on the show back then, but I didn't get recognized ever. But now there's like 2 people in the office. So there's more of us. And I've been on 90 Day for a lot longer.
Yeah.
Almost every single time I'm in the office, somebody will recognize me and they're always so sweet and respectful about it. And they'll just like send me an email and they'll be like, I heard your voice and then I checked the directory and I can't believe it's you. And I sit in this area. And if you ever, if you don't mind stopping by and, I love watching you and Tim on Pillow Talk and all of that. So I don't tell people at work, but.
Okay. I was wondering like how that worked because you have like an actual like professional job and how that works. I mean, you don't do anything on TV that would be, you're not like Jasmine out there like showing your tatas and your butthole, you know?
Yeah, we try to keep it, we try to keep it classy. We try to keep it cute. And I did have to get clearance from legal and compliance when I started the show like 4 or 5 years
Oh,
ago.
yeah.
And the whole thing was just like, don't tell people where you work.
Okay.
But
Which you haven't. You haven't done it.
and like I said, and I love what I do and I love where I work. So if anyone's looking for a job and you've gone through the Google stalking to find out where I work, I can't recommend that company enough. It's a wonderful company to work for. So
Okay.
in case they watch this, now they know how much I love it.
Okay. All right. Now I have a random question for you. So I know that early on you were married young, and then you had Chloe and you were divorced, and then later on you were with Tim, and that's why you say Tim is her dad, because that's the only real dad she's ever had in her life. Is your ex-husband the bio dad of Chloe? Is he around at all? And if so, like, was he mad that Tim says he's the dad?
No. So we barely have a relationship.
Okay.
We did reconnect, not reconnect, but we actually talked for probably the first time in like 15 years, probably 4 or 5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
when the show started, because there was paperwork that
Yes,
needed
of
to
course.
happen.
Right, because a child. Yes. Yeah.
So I reached out at that time, and I remember even reaching out, I think after like the first couple episodes, to like, how do you, and he was like, and he actually said that he had stepped back because he acknowledged early on that Chloe seemed happy and that, Tim seemed to really step up for her, and he
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to continue to cause her confusion. He wasn't at a point where like he had visitation and he rarely took advantage of it. Right. And so he's like, he kind of acknowledged that and told me, like I said, this was kind of years later, but kind of told me that he intentionally took a step back so that Tim could kind of step into that role and
Mm-hmm.
kind of not confuse Chloe. Now that she's older, I've kind of given it up to her. So she didn't have a relationship the entire time Tim and I were together. At the very beginning, he had maybe a couple visits. And like, no one told Chloe to call Tim dad. She used to call him Tim, and then it became Daddy Tim, and then it became Daddy, and we just didn't correct her. You know what I mean?
Fine. Yeah.
And so I kind of chuckle about it. She has like an annual birthday luncheon with Bio Dad.
Okay.
Drop her off like 5 minutes, at this, some restaurant 5 minutes away, and he presents her with some overpriced gift that
Sure.
is very kind, but not very, of her taste and things like that.
Okay. Yeah.
And she has her luncheon, and then I pick her up, and then she comes back and she's like, I got another whatever Tiffany's necklace or something. And I'm
you're like,
oh, that's lovely. It's, that's lovely. So, like I said, she's 17. She turned 17 a couple months ago. So I kind of let her take the lead on that. I've never, kept him from her. So she knows about everyone and she understands everything. And it's kind of up to her. I will say she beefs with Tim sometimes. And with that, I often do encourage her. I'm like, okay, but like, because again, to me too, Tim is her dad. So Tim is the one where I'm like, I know he said this thing that upset you, but like cut him some slack. He's trying to apologize. Like,
just like you would do with your dad. I mean,
with your dad, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but the bio dad, I'm like, if you never want to see him again, that's your prerogative. I'm not gonna obligate you, but he's available, and I'm gonna support that if that's something you want to pursue.
Yeah. Well, let's pretend you and Jamal are not together. How is the dating scene in Charlotte? If before and after the Jamal thing, because we saw we saw y'all go to this weird mixer where Tim was like, "You have nice skin." I was like, "This is not a pickup line."
No, the dating scene in Charlotte is very difficult for a person of my age in my position in life, and the reason being, Charlotte is very popular for younger folks. There's a lot of banks here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We have a lot of financial services here. So there's a lot of 20 somethings and even early 30 somethings that are being recruited and relocating from other places. They're young, they're single, they're fun. They want to, hook up with someone. I'm 38.
Mm-hmm.
The 20 and 30 somethings, like that's not, again, Jamal we'll see. But that's not something I'm generally pursuing. And when I meet men that are in their 40s, for example, which would be my target age range, most of them actually tend to have very young children. So most of the guys that I have dated previously have 2 and 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds because they got married at 35, had kids at 38, got divorced at 42. And
Yes.
so Chloe's 17. So I have dated some men that are significantly older, right? That are in their 50s because their kids are, that's what my parental peers are. Most of
Yes.
Chloe's friends' parents are older than I am, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Even when people try to like hook me up, someone actually did the other day. They were like, "Oh, how old are you again?" And I was like, she was talking this guy up, and I said the other day, last year, and she was talking this guy up, and I said, and she goes, "How old are you again?" And I think I was 37 or 36, and I told her, and she goes, "Oh, he's 62," and I said, that might not be it for me. That might be a
That's a different show. That's
yeah. That's
show.
I was like, sounds great. Maybe how old's his son though? Maybe we.
Maybe Chloe could date this. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So it's the dating scene it's like I said, it's difficult. And I think it's difficult for anyone. And truly, I think a lot of that is just social media, right? It's the apps and the things and like the instant gratification. And it's so easy
Yeah.
to find someone to date and it's so hard to find someone to connect with. And I
Right.
think when I met Jamal, that was like that perfect storm. I was coming out of when I met Justin, that was after months of being on the apps. There were many horrible first dates that thank God no one got to witness except for me.
Yeah.
And then I met Jamal and it was like such a casual, like, let's meet up and have dinner because I'm going to be in San Diego. And we had chit-chatted a little bit online. And like I said on the on Single Life, like my best friend when I was packing helped me pick out an outfit for my not date.
Yeah.
Like, was it a date? And I was like, well, I think he's cute, but like I'm significantly older than him. And I don't know if he's dating. So like, I don't know what's happening. And then when we met, like I said, we just hit it off so much that it was like after months of dating all these or going on all these horrible first dates and just trying to find someone that I could connect with, here was someone I never expected to connect with.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, like I see you, you see me, we're having this great conversation. And I connected more with him than I had with anyone in a long time. So,
and also he sort of understood sort of like what's going on with your life as well. Like as far as like you have a regular job, but also this show part, which is probably not easy for a lot of people to understand. It is out of the box,
It really isn't. I've had a lot of like dates. I don't go out with someone. I don't tell people up front, like, but when I was dating, when I was on the apps and stuff, I wouldn't tell people, but I would tell them usually before we met. Sometimes I didn't. And there was definitely a time that I was out with a guy and I got recognized. And like his confusion at why these girls were like jumping up and down, wanting to take selfies. And still like, as they walked away, he was like, so they liked your outfit or something?
Yeah. They love my shoes.
Totally. I do try to tell people like before and I have met a lot of people who are like, oh, that's great. Like literally like we had plans the next night and then I dropped that on them and they're like, I respect you for that, but I'm not
going to do that. Yeah. I don't want to
cancel tomorrow. And it's like, okay, I get it. So yeah, it's not easy dating on reality TV. And like I said, meeting Jamal was a weird fluke. And I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
A lot of that is like my psychosis at just justifying things after they happen. But
sure.
We're going to have to keep, we're going to have to tune in, keep watching and see if I learned lessons or if I found love. But no regrets. I always say, live your life with no regrets and follow your heart. And like I said, it was a rough season to film. It's a rough season to watch back, but the living in the moments, no regrets there.
You sound like Darcy and Stacey. Just live in the moment.
Live in the moment.
Open your heart. Manifest. Open your heart. # couple goals. Is there going to be a tell-all for this Single Life? Are we going to get that?
Is going to be a tell-all for the Single Life.
Okay, good. All right.
Yes.
It's coming up. I don't know how long this season is. I haven't gotten my TLC inside scoop of how exactly long. Sometimes they'll tell me like how many episodes we've got and stuff so I can plan accordingly. That'll be my next question. Well, listen, you are, in addition to being a business lady doing business things and on a TV show, you are also like an influencer. You're always out there like influencing, like I've got this new concealer or whatever. And I'm always like, well, let me see what Veronica is hawking because I probably like it. So tell people where they can find you on social media to follow all the things.
Thank you. Yes, you can find me at Vepyrod, VEPYROD. on TikTok and Instagram. But yes, I will share things with you that I get paid for. I will share things with you that I don't get paid for. I will
Yes.
share things with you you didn't want to know. So be fair warning, y'all.
I did like it. You did that whole post about your Christmas pajamas that I was tagged in because you accidentally were like listening to the podcast at the same time, which I was like, she does really listen. That's crazy. Yeah.
I do. And that cat commercial, like I have actually watched that back and laughed at myself because the sheer horror on my face and the fact that I thought I was going to scare this feral cat by like shaking a t-shirt at it is also
And there was no cat, guys.
I would not survive an apocalypse. That's what I learned in watching the video.
But it's like something like that. You were showing that you got cute pink Christmas pajamas, and that wasn't like a paid ad. You were like, I just found them. I had to tell you about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just like, yeah. So
Right.
that's the thing is, and I influence people in real life. I am influenced in real life.
Same.
I did go back and listen to that ad about the cat. I have a cat. I was like, maybe I want this cat thing. I don't.
I'm the worst. I'm the worst. It comes up on Instagram. I'm like, click. It's just so easy. It's so easy. It's so easy.
TikTok Shop is even more dangerous because you can buy right in the.
I don't go. No. I don't fuck with TikTok Shop.
Hide from it. It's not. I went to the dark side last year, but and now, Mary Payne, now I'm on the TikTok and now I know what are those?
That's literally a 10-year-old reference. Even I knew that one. What are those? It was in Black Panther, the movie. They even did what are those in the movie Black Panther. It's been around for a long time.
I'm going to say that I blame both of them because Chloe was right when she said, Jamal, you didn't even say it right. And I think
he didn't.
I think that's where they lost me. It's not because I'm old. It's because he didn't say it right. So
he was like, what are those? And so it's what are those? Yeah. Yes, everybody. It's like even I know it. It's a really old reference. Everybody follow Veronica on the Instagram and the TikTok. And then also, of course, we have to continue to watch 90 Day The Single Life. I'm covering it over on Pink Shade Prime every Friday. Everybody make sure you're watching. There's going to be a tell-all. I'm sure it'll be good. Love to get Tim's weighing in on what's going on because he really does have some hot takes. He does.
He does.
He does. True. All right, Veronica, I'll talk to you later.
Thanks so much. Bye, Mary Payne. Bye, Bunkies.
Bye. Ads not read by me, Mary Payne, don't necessarily reflect the views of Pink Shade. If you'd like to listen to ad-free, you're going to go on over to Supercast or Patreon, and you can find the links to Pink Shade Prime at pinkshadepodcast.com.